Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Tim Kelly. This is The Real Sports Talk. Thank you for tuning in. About a week ago, Phil Jackson, an excerpt of his upcoming book, 11 Rings, The Soul of Success, was released, in which he basically campaigned for Michael Jordan over Kobe Bryant. And I don't think that necessarily surprised people given some of the quotes that he had released in the past. And he's coached both of them, so I think it was an opinion that isn't necessarily the be-all, end-all, but it was an interesting perspective. Today, another excerpt was released in which he actually said that if he had a fantasy draft of any player in NBA history to start his team with, he actually would not pick Michael Jordan first. He said that he would go with Bill Russell, and this is from an ESPN.com article. In my estimation, the guy that has to be there would be Bill Russell. He has 11 championships as a player. That's really the idea of what excellence is when you win championships. And this to me almost came off as ingenuine because I really do not even believe that Phil Jackson believes this quote. I think that Phil Jackson knows that Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. And it's not taking away from Bill Russell, who is one of the top 10 players of all time. I don't think there's any question about that. But I just believe that the only reason that Phil Jackson would say this is because Phil Jackson has 11 rings. So by saying that Bill Russell winning 11 rings makes him the best player, Phil Jackson then is basically saying that he's the greatest coach of all time, which, I mean, you can certainly make that case that he is, but I don't think that he really believes that Bill Russell is the greatest player of all time. I think that he believes Michael Jordan is. But nonetheless, it got me into the idea of comparing the two, Bill Russell and Michael Jordan, which is something that I have not done. I've done LeBron and Michael Jordan. I've done Kobe and Michael Jordan. I've done a bunch of things with Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James. And I wanted to get into a little bit more of a historical perspective because Bill Russell is one of the all-time NBA greats that isn't talked about much in the mainstream media because he played before pretty much anyone who is still talking about sports today was watching sports at a high level, so they really just choose to not go back and not learn a ton about Bill Russell. But I've gone back into the history of the NBA, found some film, and looked up some statistics, some quotes between the two, and I want to try and make a comparison between Michael Jordan and Bill Russell. Now, regular season stats-wise is something that I took into hand first. Bill Russell averaged 15.1 points per game, while Michael Jordan averaged 30.1 points per game. Now, keep in mind, they played in different eras, and that Bill Russell was playing in an era where there probably was not quite as much talent, and I think that that is the one thing. There weren't as many big men. Obviously, there was Wilt Chamberlain, so there is that case to be made. But other than Wilt Chamberlain, there weren't a ton of other big men at the time that Bill Russell was playing that were very dominant. And in Michael Jordan's case, you're playing in an era that has Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Shaq. At the end of his career, you're talking about Kobe and Iverson. You had Hakeem, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, just to name a few. He's playing with some of the at the same time as some of the greatest players in NBA history, and I think that that is a case that would make you slant this towards Michael Jordan. Assists-wise, Bill Russell had 4.3 assists per game. Michael Jordan had 5.3. You would hope for Michael Jordan being a guard that he would have more assists. Rebounds-wise, it's not even close. So Bill Russell is probably the greatest rebounder in NBA history. He averaged 22.5 rebounds per game. Jordan averaged 6.2. The thing about Bill Russell, though, again, is that if you put him in a later era, he probably would not have 22.5 rebounds. He still, in all likelihood, would have been a dominant rebounder, but he was playing in an era where there wasn't as many big men to compete with and to try and get rebounds against. So I think that that is something that needs to be taken into perspective. Free throw percentage-wise, Michael Jordan, or field goal percentage, I should say, Michael Jordan was 49.7% for his career, and Bill Russell was 44%. And that is actually a number that is extremely low for a big man, because it's not even about, for big men, it's not about are you a good shooter, it's about you're around the hoop, so you should have a good shooting percentage. And the best case, or the best example of that would be Shaq, who's one of the worst shooters that I've ever seen. But Shaq is a 58% field goal, or has a 58% career field goal percentage. So it shows that if you're around the basket, you should have a higher field goal percentage than someone like a Michael Jordan, or whatever the case is, someone who's not a big man that is shooting. And Bill Russell, I think that that is one of the knocks on him. one of the final stat I want to look at is free throw percentage, in which Bill Russell was 56.1 and Michael Jordan was 83.5. So it's not even close. Bill Russell was not a very good free throw shooter. Michael Jordan was not automatic, but pretty close to being automatic at the free throw line. The one stat that was not available, that if it had been available would have given Bill Russell a lot more leeway in this argument, is blocks. Blocks were not an official stat during Bill Russell's career. Had they been, he would have been one of the best blockers, had one of the highest blocks per game percentages in NBA history as well. Some overall career stats that these two, or some overall career awards that these two won. Bill Russell, obviously an 11-time champion. Michael Jordan is a 6-time champion. Both of them played around 13, 14 years. But the thing is, Bill Russell played those years straight through. Michael Jordan left for 2 years to play baseball. 2 years in which I think he would have had a very legitimate shot to win 2 more NBA titles. Instead, he was gone, and Hakeem Olajuwon and the Houston Rockets were able to win those titles instead. Both are 5-time MVPs, which, I mean, 5-time MVP is certainly an accomplishment. We see some present players that are close to that accomplishment in LeBron James, but in general, you don't know, you can count on one hand the amount of guys who have won 5 MVPs. Bill Russell was a 5-time rebounding champ. Michael Jordan was a 10-time scoring champ. Michael Jordan was a Defensive Player of the Year in 1988, and I think you could have made the case that even a few more years in his career, he should have won that award. And Michael Jordan was a 14-time All-Star. Now, career points-wise, Bill Russell has 14,522. Michael Jordan blows that away, more than doubling it at 32,292 points. Rebounds-wise, though, it's the exact opposite. The script's flipped. Michael Jordan has 6,672 rebounds. Bill Russell has 21,620 rebounds. So you take those first 2 stats and it's about even. Then you look assists-wise, and you would assume that Bill Russell would have less assists, but if you think about how dominant he was in the game, you would think that he'd be getting double and triple teams, so that assists would actually be wide open for Bill Russell. He has 4,100 assists, and Michael Jordan has 5,633, and I think that that's pretty close, considering that Michael Jordan played at, not point guard, but he was a guard, a shooting guard, and had the ball in his hands more when he wasn't in the post, and the ability to create. Bill Russell's getting the ball in the post and was expected to turn and make a layup, dunk, whatever the case is. He was getting the ball in a different situation a lot more. Now, Phil Jackson essentially said that Bill Russell was the guy that he would start his team with because he had 11 rings. However, statistically, Bill Russell wasn't always the greatest performer in NBA Finals. Now, the exact NBA Finals stats were hard to find, so I found the playoff stats, and it's not that they were bad, that Bill Russell was performing bad in these. He actually did up his performance from regular season, but I think that Michael Jordan's numbers are just way better. Playoff stats-wise, Bill Russell had 16.2 points per game, which was up from his regular season average, but Michael Jordan had 33.4 points per game, which was up from his average. Bill Russell had 4.7 assists per game. Michael Jordan had 5.7 assists. Both were up from their regular season averages. And then rebounds-wise, Bill Russell had 24.9 rebounds. That is nearly 25 rebounds per game, which is absolutely incredible. Michael Jordan had 6.4 rebounds. Both were up, but it's not even a comparison because Michael Jordan had almost 20 less rebounds per game. And then field goal percentage-wise, Bill Russell was even down from his disappointing regular season field goal percentage to 43%. Michael Jordan was down a bit to 48.7%, but that is still really good for the playoffs. And you think about the playoffs, normally you're going to see stars shoot a little bit more, take a few more shots than the regular season they'd probably pass off, because it's the playoffs, because it's a big stage, and because you want to see your best player be the one that either wins or loses the game for you. So I think putting this comparison into perspective, the guy that I would take to start my team is Michael Jordan, but it's nitpicking because both of these guys are top 10 players of all time. If you get either of them, you're bound to win a lot of championships. You get different things that are very good. You're going to get a ridiculous amount of scoring from Michael Jordan. You're going to get great rebounds and blocks from Bill Russell. And Michael Jordan, I think you're going to actually get better defense out of. As good a blocker as Bill Russell was, I think that you do get better defense Adam Michael Jordan. So let me know what you guys think on this comparison. I've done a lot of these comparisons. This one's a little bit different though because they did not play in that same era. They didn't even play close to the same era. Even comparing Michael Jordan and LeBron James, there's guys that have played in the same time periods as both of them. There's not that case when you talk about Bill Russell and Michael Jordan. So it's different. They don't play even remotely the same position or the same style, so it's tough to make that comparison. But people like comparisons. It's natural to want to make these type of comparisons because you're looking at two of the greatest to ever step on the hardwood in NBA or basketball history for that matter. So let me know what you guys think about the comparison in the comment section below. Subscribe, section215.com. Follow me on Twitter at CashKelly_TRST, KASHKelly_TRST, and Facebook.com/TheRealSportsTalk. I'll catch you guys next time.